Hi there, aspiring Pythonista. Welcome back to the Python Mastery Crash Course for Beginners. I'm Gorret Golden, and in this session, you'll learn how to set up your Python environment. By the end of this session, you'll be ready to start coding like a pro. In my last video, I covered an overview of what will be covered throughout the entire course. If you are new here, please check out the previous video to get up to speed. So let's get started. So before you think about installing Python on your machine, you first of all have to confirm whether the Python software was installed or not. And generally, the way we work with softwares related to programming languages, you always have the ability of confirming whether this software was installed or not. And this can not only be Python, but also PHP, Java, Flutter, or any other programming language. And the way we do this, you open up your command prompt, and within the terminal, you go ahead and type the name of the software for which you want to confirm whether it exists or not. And for this case, since we are going to be working with Python, you go ahead and type Python, then enter. You can also type Python, then -- version, then enter. So the fact that it's not displaying the version of Python that would be installed in this machine, then that means that Python hasn't been installed. Because cases whereby, for example, if you try to work with maybe PHP, then -- version, then you press enter, you can pretty see that the version is being displayed as PHP 8.2.12. So, in case you do not have Python installed on your machine, you have to go ahead and install it. And python.org is your go-to place for installing Python on your machine. So on this website, click on downloads, and it always gives you an option of the operating systems for which you want to install Python. It can be Windows, Mac OS, or any other platform like Linux. And in case you are a Windows user, you grab the Windows installer by clicking on this button, and this is the latest version of Python. So you click on it and it will go ahead and download the installer. So once the setup has been downloaded successfully, you go ahead and click on the icon to open the setup, and then it goes ahead and opens up this pop-up. Then you click on run. Now when you click on run, it opens up this pop-up, and for you to be able to install Python, you always have two options: either to install it according to the default settings, where it goes ahead and installs the setup in local disk C, users, then the name of the currently logged in account for the machine, then app data, local, programs, Python, then the other subfolder according to the version that is being installed. Or you always have an option to customize the path for which the software is going to be installed. And the recommended one is the first one that has install now. Then we always have two checkboxes, whereby we have one that has use admin privileges when installing the executable file. Now for this checkbox, you only have to select it if you are having multiple user accounts on your machine. Because by default, Python is always installed for one account. But in case you're having more than one account, maybe if you're sharing your machine with someone else and the two of you are having different user accounts, then you can go ahead and select this such that Python is installed for both accounts. So you can go ahead and either select this or not, but in case you only have one account, then you do not have to check this out. Now the other option for the checkbox is the one that has add Python executable to the path. Now when installing Python on Windows, you always have the option to check this checkbox during the installation process, and this option always ensures that Python is executable, the python.exe and any other related tools for Python are available from any command line or any terminal window without needing to specify their full paths. And therefore it is always recommended that you always select or check this such that the executable file is added to the system variables. Then once this is done, we are going to click on install now. Then it will go ahead and install Python, and then pip, which is Python's package manager. So once the setup has been successfully installed, you go back to the command prompt and reconfirm whether Python has been successfully installed on your machine. So you can first of all type Python, then click on the enter button. If Python has been successfully installed, this is always the output, whereby it goes ahead and opens up the Python shell. So if we say print hello, you can pretty see that the string has been printed. But for now, this is not what we are going to focus on. So I'm going to close this up and press enter. So the other way you can confirm if Python has been successfully installed is by typing Python, then space -- version, then you press enter. So this goes ahead and outputs the version of Python that you are using currently, and this is version 3.12.4. So if you see this, congrats, because Python is ready to roll. And in case this is not outputted, then you have to double check the installation process. So if you missed the add Python to path checkbox, no worries, we can do it manually. So first of all, you have to open up your file manager so that you copy the path to which Python was installed. And this works for those who are using the Windows operating system, and only if you did not customize the settings where Python was installed. So according to the default settings, you open up your local disk C, and then you access the users folder, then the model of your laptop. It can also be the name. So mine is Elite X2, so you open this up, and then you search for app data. So you open app data, and within the app data subfolder, you open local, then you also search for programs. So you can always scroll down, then you open programs, then you access the Python subfolder. So you open it up, and then within this subfolder, we have another subfolder for Python 3.1.2 according to the version that you installed. So apparently this is the latest version. So you open it up. So while you are here, all you have to do is to copy this path by clicking within this space and copying this up. Then you type env in the search bar, such that we open up the system environment variables. Then you click on open. Then it goes ahead and opens this pop-up. Then you select environment variables. Now, while on the environment variables, we always have two sections. We have the user variables, and we also have the system variables. So you're going to check up the user variables and select path. Now, when you select path, you click on the edit button. So when you click on edit, it takes you to edit environment variables. Now you can pretty see that apparently I already have Python added to the user environment variables. So in case you did not, you just have to go ahead and click on new, then you paste the path there. And once you add this up, you also have to go ahead and copy the path for the scripts. So you open up the scripts subfolder and copy this path. Then you go back. So within the edit variables, you click on new and go ahead and paste the path for the scripts folder too. And once that is done, you go ahead and click OK. But with the fact that I already have the paths added to my environment variables, I'm just going to go ahead and click cancel. But if you did not have the path automatically added for you, you still have to go ahead and click OK all through. Now that Python is installed, let's talk about where you will be writing all that awesome code. An integrated development environment, also known as an IDE, is your best friend here. My favorite one is Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is free, lightweight, and packed with features that make coding a joy. And here is how you can set it up. So go to the Visual Studio Code website and download the installer for your operating system. And this is their official website. Basing on your operating system, and for this case we are using Windows, so you can click on the download for Windows button, or you can also click on download, and it will redirect you to the options that are available regarding the operating system for which you can work with. So this can be Windows, Ubuntu, Fedora, and Mac. Anyway, Ubuntu, and these are for Linux. So if you are working with Windows, of course you have to select the Windows operating system, and in case you have a MacBook, that means that you're working with Mac OS. So you go ahead and choose based on the operating system that you're working with. So for Windows, you just click on this button, and then it will go ahead and download the setup, and this is the setup. So once the setup has downloaded, follow the prompts to install it. It's straightforward. You will be up and running in no time. Once you have Visual Studio Code installed, let's configure it for Python development. Fire up Visual Studio Code and navigate to the extensions view by clicking on this square icon in the sidebar, or you can also work with shortcuts by pressing Ctrl+Shift+X. So within the search bar, you type Python, and you must always ensure that you have internet access. So if this extension is not installed, you go ahead and install it. So apparently it's already installed, so I can actually uninstall it first and then reinstall it. So you must always ensure that if you're to enable this extension for Python, it must be the extension that is provided by Microsoft. So whenever this extension is installed in Visual Studio Code, it adds rich support for Python, including IntelliSense, linting, and debugging in terms of Python. You can also go ahead and install CodeRunner. So you type CodeRunner, then you click on install. And with the CodeRunner extension, you always have the ability of running Python scripts quickly, and the extension allows you to run your code with a single click, as we shall be seeing in the future. Let's tweak a few settings to make your Python development smoother. So you will have to add a Python interpreter to Visual Studio Code, and the way we do this is by pressing Ctrl+Shift+P, and this goes ahead and opens up the command palette. Then you click on Python, select interpreter, then the recommended one, of course, is always the path to which Python was installed earlier. So you click that up, and once we are getting no output, that means that the interpreter has been successfully added to Visual Studio Code. So once that is done, you can go ahead and create a new Python file. So you can click on New, then New File. Then you're going to select the Python file, and within the Python file, we are just going to go ahead and type something precise. Then once this is done, you can always access the Run Python icon. So you click on this, and first of all, if this file hasn't been saved, you always have to ensure that you are saving it. Of course, we are going to be working with more organized approaches in the future, but this is a basic one to test that our interpreter has been configured successfully. So this is going to be index, and then we shall go ahead and save it up. So once that is done, the script is going to be executed and the output is going to be displayed in the terminal. Here are a few more extensions that can enhance your Python coding experience. So you can also go ahead and add Pylance. So this extension adds super fast IntelliSense and code navigation features. Then you can also go ahead and add Jupyter. And with the Jupyter extension or the Jupyter Notebook support, if you are into data science, this is a must-have for running Jupyter Notebooks within Visual Studio Code. And lastly, you can also go ahead and install Prettier Code Formatter. So the Prettier Code Formatter extension ensures that your code looks neat and tidy. And there you have it. Your Python environment is all set and ready to go. You have installed Python, added it to your path, verified the installation, and configured Visual Studio Code with essential extensions. You are now ready to start coding and bringing your ideas to life. In the next session, we will dive into Python basics, variables, data types, and all that good stuff. Until then, explore Visual Studio Code, write some Python scripts and get comfortable with your new setup. Remember, learning is a journey and every step you take brings you closer to mastering Python. Happy coding and see you again in the next session.